welcome to your third day at this conference. I just want to first say thank you very much for inviting me to come and do this talk today. And I hope I'm going to bring the fun. I really, really hope I'm going to bring the fun, because there's no way that we can end the last or end the last day with boringness, as my son would say. Okay. So I'm just very pleased to be here today, simply because on our way here this morning, there was a horrible accident on the N1. And initially, my husband and I had decided to leave at 6:15 this morning. No, 6 o'clock this morning. But, you know, having 3 sons and myself, having to prepare myself and actually get out of the house by 6 o'clock this morning was a challenge. So we didn't get out of the house by 6 o'clock this morning. We got out of the house at 6:20. Had we left the house at 6, we would have witnessed the accident and probably been in this accident. So I'm very grateful for being able to be here this morning to share my message with you. So I hope that everybody else in the room can also just concentrate on the things that we are grateful for, as opposed to what's going wrong in our lives. So on that note, I want to introduce you to my topic for the day. It's life after COVID-19. COVID-19 was also a very traumatic event for all of us across the world. Not only for us in South Africa, but across the world we saw a global pandemic take us down to our knees and beg for mercy. But now we're moving out of COVID-19, we're moving out of the pandemic, and we're hoping to return back to normal. And many people have stated that, you know, this is not going to be your normal that you used to know. It's the new abnormal. So a lot of us that knew about and were very fond of sitting in crowds, not being a meter away. I'm a hugger. So imagine what it did to a hugger. When I meet you for the first time, I'm going to hug you. I couldn't hug anymore. There was no way that I could come inches close to you in order for me to show you that you are welcome in my bubble. So many of us have had to not hug anymore. Many of us have had to start living life in isolation. Many of us have had to suffer the loss of somebody very dear to us. And now that the world says we're going back to normal, and now that our infection rates are also still going up, but our recovery rates are still staying really high, now people are saying, let's get back to work, let's get back to the office, let's get back on with life. Yay! And there are some of us that are still sitting and thinking, how am I going to do this? There are many of us that are still anxious about going back to the office, being around people. Not because we don't want to, but because we don't know it anymore. 2 years is a long time. And everybody recovers differently. Everybody will have a different recovery speed, and everybody will have a different way of thinking of COVID-19 or the effects thereof. So I'm going to talk about the 3 R's today. And as I said, I'm going to make it as fun as possible. So it's going to be an interactive session. It's not going to be me standing here and talking and drinking my water, which I forgot at the table. So it's not going to be me talking here and, you know, sharing certain things with you. Thank you so much. Thanks. So we're going to look at what our response is, how we recover from COVID-19, and our resilience at work. Not only our resilience at work, but within our home and within our educational settings, whatever place you find yourself in, let's look at how you can become resilient in those settings. So I'm gonna try and coordinate There's a lot of coordination happening here in front, so if I seem staggered and I seem like I'm losing myself, then I am. So where we've been is that we've been in isolation. We've been faced with a traumatic event, COVID-19, and we are now currently in the phase of returning back to normal. I'm just going to erase that sentence. We are not returning back to normal. It's the new abnormal. It's the new abnormal that COVID babies will understand when they grow up. But us, old ones that have been on this earth for longer than what they have been on this earth, it's going to take some time to get used to. I heard an interesting fact on the radio one day. One of the DJs said, those kids that have been born in 2020, they don't know people without masks. When they walk in the store or they're in the pram with their mums and their dads, they see everybody with a mask on. Their teachers are wearing masks. So they don't understand the importance of a smile. They don't know it. So can you just imagine the impact that will have on a child who will be 12 in 10 years' time? They don't know the smile. They don't know people without masks. And that left me thinking that I was lucky to be born in the period that I was, because I understand the importance of a smile. I understand the importance of social connectedness. Some of our children will not understand social connectedness. But let's not get hung up on that right now. And so where are we going? Where are we going with this COVID-19? Has it come to stay? Do we know enough about COVID-19? Do we know enough about the vaccines? And do we know enough about how to live with COVID-19? As an advocate for mental health, I normally say to all my clients who are diagnosed with depression, bipolar mood disorder, your psychiatric condition does not define you. You are, let's say, John living with bipolar mood disorder. We are now human beings living with COVID-19. COVID-19 does not define us. There are ways that we can socialize with each other and still feel like we used to when we were socializing before COVID. So we ask ourselves these questions. Where have we been? We have to reflect. We have to think about, it's time now for us to sit down and think about where have we been and what have we been through? Where are we now and where are we going? And I've come to share with you a few things on how to go forward. So it might not be very interactive now because this is like the lecture part of the session, right? So, globally and in South Africa, the initial response was quite rightly focused on the virus itself, right? And we were all asking ourselves questions, like what is this thing? Where did it come from? How do the symptoms look like? What do the symptoms look like? How do I then react? And we were all told, wash your hands, wear your mask, sanitize, and stay indoors. That's what we were told. Because you didn't want to catch the virus, because then all of a sudden it was lethal. But we forgot that if this is happening now, what is the longer term effect going to be? What is the effect going to be on people's lives, people's mental states, people's financial situations? And we saw that all happening like in 2021. 2021 was a hard year, ne? It was a tough year. And then we said 2019 was a junk year, but 2021 was a tough year. And then we all said at New Year's Eve, 2022, it's gonna run. Yes, bring it on. We know now what we're dealing with. Bah. Wave 4. Wait, what was it? Wave 4. Or, I'm confused with levels now, with ESCOM. Sorry. 4th wave. Right? So what has happened over the last few, you can see that we've looked at what the first wave did in our lives, what the second wave did in our lives, and we've come to the point that, or come to the realization that with each wave, there has been a lot of trauma. Not only on families, not only on work communities, but also on health facilities. But what this has forced us to do is start thinking about mental health, and that's what I'm here for today. It started speaking to the importance of putting resources available for mental health. All of a sudden, people were having panic attacks and they didn't know what that was. All of a sudden, people were not being able to socialize with one another, and when you're not able to socialize with people and be connected to people, we hit a low. All of a sudden, I do not have the energy to do anything. And then I go to my doctor and he puts me on antidepressants saying that I'm depressed. And therefore, you know how people never used to talk about mental health? Because there was a stigma attached to it. And that if you were depressed, it's just because you were looking for attention. Or because if you had anxiety, it was because you worried too much. People refuse to talk about mental health. Did you know that in the world, many governments only spend 2% of their budget on mental health? Only 2%. When there's a vast majority of people, and many people also sitting in this room probably, who suffer from anxiety, depression, and all other mental health issues. But yet we're so afraid because, in the movies, when people try to explain what mental health is, what movie comes up for you guys? I'm just waiting for that one movie that somebody must mention. Sorry? Forrest Gump, that's intellectual disabilities, yes. A Beautiful Mind. From the older crew. Silence of the Lambs. Another one, much older. Thank you, my favorite. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's what people believe that mental health was. This crazy person, this person that is misunderstood, this person that will kill you. When I worked in psychiatry, my mother, the first thing she asked me was, "Are you sure you want to do this?" She says to me, "They chase you and they hurt you. Aren't you scared to go in the wards?" Initially, because my mother said that, I used to not go into the wards. So there was a section, was a nursing section, and you could walk into the nursing station, and then there were big windows, and that's where the patients were. I would never step into that area until one day I realized, no man, overcome your fear. It's something that your mother told you, not what you believe. You haven't experienced it. It's what you've seen on television. So I stepped in, and to my surprise, I came home safely. And I told my mother this story, and she says, "No, you were lucky." A few years down the line, I was a facility manager for a psychiatric ward, and I was, I had psychiatric patients all over me, and she said to me, you must look after yourself. My mom's not a bad person, but these beliefs that they have. And she sees it around and she says, you must look after yourself, eh? I'm saying, yes, I do. Because otherwise you turn out being just like them. Mommy, please. But that points out to the importance of self-care. Because imagine I'm filling everybody else's cup, making sure that you comply to meds, and at the end of the day, I'm not looking after myself. So how am I going to be there for the next person? And the concentration on, or the focus of this session is self-care too. So I'm going to try and give you some tips on how to look after yourself. This is definitely not the way. I didn't rehearse it like this. This is completely different to what I had planned. But these things happen, right? Okay. So after 2019, we've now realized that, or not after 2019, after 2021 actually, we realized that there's a lot of information going around, and there's a lot of celebrities coming out to say, I'm tired, I'm depressed, and there's a lot of well-known, not celebrities only, but well-known professionals that have come out to say, I'm actually going to start looking after my mental health. And when people started talking more about mental health, and the literature started coming out, we then realized that there's a relationship between what the immune system was doing and the changes happening within your neurological systems. So it's those things that bring out depression, anxiety, PTSD, that neurological changes that happen are evident with people not only suffering from or living with COVID-19, long haul COVID-19 or COVID-19 fog. Not only those people are suffering, but also people who have not been infected, but affected by COVID-19. Please stop me if you need me to answer any questions. I'm more than willing to answer questions as I go. So I want you to sit here today and think about, where are you? Are you the bright green turning to yellow? Are you the grey turning to black? Are you the red turning to yellow or mustard, whatever that colour is, mustard? Or are you more of a bluish colour, serene and thoughtful about the way you're feeling today? Or are you a range of different colours? Or are you just blah? I see brown as blah. Where are you today? Think about, where are you at in the bigger scheme of things? What do you identify with more every single day? Which emotions are going through your head most of the day, every day? And I'll explain to you why it's so important for you to know where you're at in a bit, and to have an emotional check-in every single day of your life. If you want to recover, respond, and remain resilient, you're going to have to do an emotional check-in every single day of your life. Nobody's going to do it for you, because everybody else is busy with their own things. You might be lucky to have that supportive system who checks in with you every single day, but it's always a good idea to be your own superhero. So there's a sociologist that came up with, or she coined this phase called languishing. And in simple terms, I like the way that they used it though. It's a name for that blah feeling. Remember when I said I like to use the brown as blah? That blah feeling. that if you watched, now because I have a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 7-year-old, I know this movie. Please don't judge. What's that emojis movie? Right? There's an emoji that just like is up there. It's that feeling. It's that guy. So being Blair is just basically you're okay, but you're not okay. It's that middle point between I'm depressed, but I'm not depressed. I'm depressed, but I'm not clinically depressed. I have these symptoms, but I don't have them all the time. I snap out of them when I have to. It's when you're not able to focus and you don't have any kind of motivation to do anything. That's Blair. And it's called languishing. And I love this because all of a sudden everybody was depressed. But in actual fact we were languishing. So that takes the pressure off from, oh my gosh, if I'm depressed then I have to take off 7 days of work and I can't do that, or I have to take off a few weeks of work and I can't do that, I can't afford it. But if you start naming it and if you start knowing exactly how you're feeling, then you're able to fight it and you're able to deal with it. Rather the devil you know than the devil you don't. That's what I always say. If I want to know, if I've been diagnosed with diabetes, I want to know everything about diabetes so that I can overcome it and I can win it. Because no diabetes is going to get me down. So instead of languishing, instead of feeling languished about having diabetes, I'm going to try and find out more about the illness so that I can overcome it. Anybody wanting to ask a question? It will get interactive in a minute. Don't worry. We're almost there. So languishing is to be or become weak or feeble, to droop, to fade, to lose vigor and vitality, and to undergo neglect or experience prolonged inactivity, suffer hardship and distress. I needed to read that. I don't like reading off slides, but I needed to read that so that everybody can focus on what languishing is. So if you've been feeling in a certain way and you can't really pinpoint what it is, you could be feeling Blair. And it's okay to feel Blair. It's really okay. It's just we need to take ourselves out of the blairness. That's what we need to do. So, I'm going to do this. For the Afrikaans speaking people, it's Kwynand Verwelk. Is my Afrikaans good? Was it good enough? Also, translation is, my husband sat with me the whole night, not the whole night, but he sat with me and he said to me, I must pronounce it like this. Ndi chafe. Ndi chafe. It says that here. So it's Ndi, what? I like it.
And we put it in English. We take it from because we say, I'm chaffarized.
I'm chaffarized! I love it! I'm gonna use that! I love it! I'm chaffarized. That's better than what's on the board here. Yeah, I'm chaffarized. Yes. But I don't want to be chaffarized. Leave it. And then the Zulu translation is ukudangala. Yes. So I said to my husband yesterday, I said to him, I want to speak Zulu, it's easier. But they say if you can speak Xhosa, you can speak Zulu, ne? Okay. So I'm going to start speaking Zulu rather. I don't even want to try Sotho. No. All right. So this picture depicts how we might have started in 2018 or our lives before COVID, We were all excited about life. We had goals and we had plans that we needed to achieve. We had things that we wanted to do with our families. We wanted to travel. We wanted to buy a new house. We wanted to do A, B, C, and D and just go for life now. I'm out there doing things, doing the things. And then COVID hits, and then we're still going out there doing the things to the best of our ability with the restraints that we had, the restrictions that we had. We were still doing it because now we were all working from home in our slippers, pajamas, and just the top part that's looking nice and makeup. Ne? That's what we were doing. Don't sit there and say no, because it was. It was. I loved it. I loved it. I mean, I was I am a therapist, and I still do it. I work from home, and just the top part of me is presentable. Other than that, no ways. If I can wear my bed socks, I'm wearing my bed socks. And so we were all comfortable with this. We thought it was so much fun, and we were saving on petrol. And then the kids stayed home. And they weren't going to school anymore. Now, for those who have kids, guess who was homeschooling us? No? It was the mommy that was homeschooling, because the mommy had to work from home also. And daddy was working from home, but he was too busy with work. So mommy has to do the dishes, do the laundry. All of a sudden, you're doing all of that in your 8 hours of work. You're doing the laundry, you're doing the dishes, you're cleaning the house, you're homeschooling your kids. They are online doing their thing, so they're hogging the Wi-Fi, and you can't get onto your meetings, so you're always complaining on Zoom saying, oh, my network is down. It was hectic. All of a sudden, our homes became a workplace. Our safe havens became a workplace. The place that you retreat to after a hard day of work now became your work area. And we were all saying to our businesses, compensate. Give me money for a desk. Give me this. Give me that. Most of the companies said no. The best that we will give you is a modem. You know? For those times when your Wi-Fi is hot. And then the kids start going to schools like staggering. And I'm talking out of personal experience. So they go back to school and they stagger their school days, right? So now I had 2 kids at one school, three kids at one school. 2 of them went to school on a Monday, the other one went to school on the Tuesday. And then this one has that, and that one has that. So you're driving up and down. Where's your 8 hours of work that your boss is expecting you to give? And that all becomes stressful. Some of us needed to take a cut in pay because we were working from home, or because there just was no more clients or business. And so the finances also became quite a distressing factor for many people. As therapists had to work out a new way of doing counseling, and not a lot of clients wanted to do a Zoom meeting. Now, they're all asking for online counseling because they got used to this new abnormal. So things changed, eh? Things changed drastically. And when things changed, we started feeling, I'm not okay. And I know there's many of us that are sitting here and thinking, at what point did I actually realize that I'm not okay? Ask yourself that question if you're not thinking that. Ask yourself, at what point was it just too much for me? And then we start feeling like, you get up in the morning, you've got a Zoom call at 9, and it's so hard just to get out of that bed. And we're trudging through our day, not knowing or not wanting to be at work, to report to duty, to log on to that call. Why? Because we just don't listen, right? We just don't want to. What's the point? And that, my friends, is just because your routine was disrupted. and I'll speak about the routine in a little while. So it becomes aimless. It's not a joy for you anymore. You've had to now find joy in other things, and there weren't many other things available for us to find joy in. And then we just start feeling, bleh, not this again. Oh, what does my boss want now again? You know? When I was studying, we had a whole section. We were taught a whole section on burnout. Not languishing, but burnout. A whole section. It was a chapter. So, we all go through this kitty phases. I'm going to call it kitty phases. And the zealot is really just that person who says, do you need something from me? I'll do it now. Yes. No, I'm going to volunteer for everything. We have a project coming on. Are you available? Can we meet? Yes. Let's meet. So we're all hyped up, and there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy within ourselves. But as we progress, and as we start doing this without looking after ourselves, without the necessary self-care, we become irritable. So we become irritable with the fact that, why are all these colleagues just counting on me all the time? Why must I do everything? Everybody's working from home, but now I need to do this, and I need to do that. Nobody wants to work with me. Those kind of irritability comments that are coming out of your mind and out of your mouth, mostly. Then we start withdrawing, and we say, I'm not doing this anymore. But we withdraw inappropriately, so we don't say anything in the WhatsApp groups, we don't reply to emails, we just refuse to go to meetings. I'm sick today, I can't go. My son has this, I can't go. Your son does have that, but you can shift in your meeting, but you choose to not go there. And then we turn into the zombie. The zombie who just blunts. We block off. That's when we've done everything negatively, or everything we've self-loathed. We've become negative about ourselves. And we just block off from the world, from our loved ones, from work, from friends. And we just tend to block off. Okay, so this is where it becomes interactive. We have a little bit of a stress questionnaire. You just answer yes or no, and we could either decide to write it on the pad and have it a very private situation, or we could actually just say, yes, that's how I'm feeling. Yes, that's how I'm feeling. You choose. Otherwise, I choose. And I'm adventurous. Right, we'll just do a group thing. We don't have to write it down. It's not very personal, but I do think that some people would prefer to write it down on a piece of paper, and if that is your choice, then you do so. Have your eating, drinking, and sleeping habits changed? Yes, a lot of nods. Do you feel exhausted throughout the day? My shame. Do you feel as though you're always working and yet getting nothing done? Oh my gosh, I didn't even finish the sentence and I got a yes. Do you suffer from head, back, neck, stomach aches? Oh no. Do you sometimes have dizzy spells where you, oh okay. Right? There's another page and y'all have said yes to every 5 dots. 5 dots, y'all have said yes. Do you have emotional outbursts when you cry or angered easily? Now just remember, it's out of the ordinary, eh? So if you are the kind of person that has emotional outbursts before, naturally, then you don't answer yes. But if it's out of the extraordinary, then you answer yes. So I'm going to ask that question again. Do you have emotional outbursts when you cry? Will you cry or become angered easily? No, okay. Phew. Do you get sick a lot, more than usual? Okay. Do you have cardiovascular problems that put you at risk for dangerous stroke or heart attacks? You don't know. Please go and see your GP. ASAP. It's always good to do a check. Do you find that your mind is still consumed with worry even when you're supposed to be relaxing or spending time? I know. I'm going to teach you how to just relax. Do you have thoughts of death and suicide? Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you answered yes to more than 3 of these questions, consult with your EWP, please, urgently. EWP stands for Employee Wellness Program. So maybe just like, sometimes what we find as EWP affiliates is that sometimes people just need a soundboard. They don't need therapy. They just need to talk to someone. They just need to bounce ideas off someone. So it's always a good idea. I've got a soundboard, and it's not my husband. So I've got a soundboard, and I need to always bounce things off. I need to know where my head's at, right? So it's a good idea to do that. So I'm going to teach you phases. Flexibility, acknowledge, communicate, embrace optimism, stay present, and self-care. Now, I love these. 1, flexibility teaches me that nothing happens just for a reason, and nothing is white and black. I'm flexible. Life happens. You know, when a client comes to my office and says to me, I'm so sorry I'm late, they're already anxious about meeting someone new and doing this and being vulnerable in front of somebody that they don't know. And now they're still anxious about the fact that they're late. Who am I to judge? So I'm always going to say life happens. I'm always going to say that to you. Because you know what? The more flexible you are, the easier your life becomes. Acknowledge. I am not afraid as an individual to acknowledge certain things. To acknowledge that I was very nervous when I came to the podium, and I get nervous each time I come to a podium. I'm not afraid to acknowledge that. Because you know what that does for me? Puts the pressure right down. It allows me to choose a different path when I acknowledge. I'm not afraid to communicate how I feel. I'm not afraid to communicate my expectations. I'm not afraid to communicate what I need from you as an individual. And I'm very optimistic. So when something happens, I'm always looking for the opportunity that it has provided me with. So I lost my job in 2019, just before COVID hit. And I turned around and I said to myself, you've got a degree, why don't you use it for your benefit and for your family's benefit? And at the heart of COVID, at the heart of the start of COVID, I started my own business. And it's still happening. It's still running today. It wasn't easy, but I saw that disappointing situation of losing your job just before COVID hit as an opportunity to move forward. And I do not regret that decision that I made. So I'm always optimistic. Yes, things happen. And yes, we are allowed to feel sad, but we're not allowed to dwell. We're not allowed to spiral. We were not put on this earth to be melancholic. We were not allowed to put on this earth to be mediocre. We were put on this earth because we had the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. Okay. And then the other thing is stay present. Where you are right now, where you are sitting right now, I bet you half of this group is at the office. How many of you are on your emails?
In my head.
In your head. You're still there, sweetie. How many of you are at home? How many of you are thinking like, what am I having for lunch? Do you know what you're doing? You're disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting the fact that the moment that you're in right now is priceless. The moment that you're in right now is where you're supposed to be. And the more you give yourself the respect and the fact that you are worth this moment, and that you are present in this moment, and that we are alive in this moment, in this room, that's what's important here. To be present. Not on your emails, not on your phone, but to be present. How many of us spend our time at home, but we're thinking about work? Who are you disrespecting there? Your family and yourself. Because work is work and home is home. Jay Shetty says, does anybody follow him? Yes, I love him, I love him, I love him. He says, for the longest time we have been disrespecting areas in our homes because of COVID. We eat where we sleep where we eat, we work where we sleep, and we sleep where we work. Yeah. Doesn't sound right. But yeah, we do sleep where we work. When we fall asleep, while we're busy on our laptops, right? We fall asleep there too. And what he encourages is that we all should start looking at respecting the areas in your home. Where you sleep, you sleep. Only. Okay. Yeah. Why are you yawing, ma'am? You must sleep there in your bed where you sleep. Sleep in your bed where you sleep where you sleep. You need to respect that area. Where you eat, you need to respect that area. So what we've done as a family, when we eat around the table, no phones, no TV, nothing. It's just us having a lacquer conversation. And in that way, we get to know our children. We get to know who they are. We get to know, it's that raw conversation, that nice raw conversation, the ones that we used to have as kids with our parents, where there were no telephones, no cell phones, no laptops, no TVs, those moments. Where we could actually say, my mom was present when I had this conversation with her. So when we cooking food as well, the whole family's there, and we're all chopping onions and green peppers, and everybody's getting involved in the pot, but we're there. No phones, no cell phones, no nothing. It's hard, but you have to be committed. It starts with you. It really starts with you. If you decide today that I'm going to be present in every moment that I spend with my family or with myself, and it's usually a good idea to start being present with yourself before you can do it with other people. And then, of course, self-care. I've had to learn that the hard way, because I was burnt out as a social worker. I was very burnt out. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't doing what I loved. I just didn't, because it paid the bills, right? Had I known what I know now, then I wouldn't be working there. So how do you go from like languishing to flourishing? I mean, we can say that a pot plant that is being well looked after and in the sun and getting watered and being spoken to. I don't know how many of you speak to your plants, but they say that you should speak to your plants. If we can say that a pot plant that gets all of that will flourish, then the human can also flourish. So you can still be feeling blah, but you can flourish. You can still have depression, but you can still flourish. Remember the whole saying about John is somebody with depression, lives with depression? It does not define John, because John flourishes. But John chooses to flourish. It's a choice. So flourishing is not just only the absence of mental illness, it's not that. You can still live with a mental health condition and still flourish. Anybody know anybody who has had depression or bipolar mood disorder and still flourished? Yes? Anybody in particular that you can talk about? Who do you know? Celebrity. Do you know that Keanu Reeves has depression? And he's a hottie. Thank you. Although Robin Williams, I think he committed suicide, right? Although he committed suicide at the end, he flourished in his life at the peak when he was going through quite a lot of tough times, turbulent times. He still flourished. I had postnatal depression. I choose to flourish. I had postnatal depression after my second son. No, firstborn, sorry. I get confused because there's so much. After my first son, I had my second born a year and 4 months later. A bit too quick. Antibiotic baby. Some women don't understand. So it was not planned. It was not in my goals. It was not part of my future. But I thank God every day that I do have him. And I think my sons thank God every day for having him too, because he adds so much joy in the lives of our family. He is funny, awkward, and he reminds me, we call him Sheldon at home, so if you follow Big Bang Theory, we call him Sheldon. And so when they watched Big Bang Theory for the first time, he could relate to Sheldon quite a bit, and he then went to his brother's door and he went, Mikhail, Mikhail, Mikhail. And Mikhail turned around and says, yo, now you really like Sheldon. So if you watch the Big Bang Theory, you'll know that he knocks 3 times, right? Okay, that was just a joke. All right. So the one way that we are able to flourish is if we name it. So once we name it, once we name something, we are able to combat it. So if I'm feeling depressed, what does depression make me do? How does it look like to me? So the first sign is I don't like getting out of bed. Right? I'm speaking from personal experience. I don't like getting out of bed. I don't want to brush my hair. I don't want to brush my teeth. I don't want to get out of my PJs. I just want to be in my bed under my covers. So you have to name it. And that brings about a level of awareness. And when you are aware of something, what's the next thing you can do? Deal with it. Do something about it. So when we name it, we're speaking words, right? And this is what this slide is talking about. Words help us to identify and process our feelings. When we have a toddler, I don't know who has a toddler in the room, like a 2-year-old or just learning to speak. She's 3. So what happened when she started talking? Da, 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 da. And she believed that you knew exactly what she was saying, right? And so when you didn't understand her, what happened? She gets frustrated, right? So she starts tantruming around the place. Yeah, or she points. So you don't understand what's coming out of my mouth, so I'm going to show you what. And if you still don't get it, I'm going to throw something, right? And that's what it's like when we have emotions that we cannot get out. We start tantruming. So we start tantruming either through self-loathing or we start tantruming through other ways. And so when we say certain things or we tell people how we feel about a certain, or how our mood's like, let's keep it basic, what our mood is like, does it bring down this kind of feeling like, whew, I got it out? Does it? I finally got it out. Somebody finally heard me. Maybe not listened, but heard me. I finally got it out of my system. So it brings about a lot of relief. It then allows you to focus on what your goal is. Because you can't be sitting with those emotions. Because when we have emotions inside of us, we become confused and we start thinking about things and we start spiraling and ruminating. But when we get it out, it's easier for us to deal with. When we also, and I just want to bring this in here, is that when we share our experiences with people, do you know what you're doing for the next person? What are you doing for the next person?
I think you're allowing them the space to also share something with you, like the same space.
To share the space with you. You're allowing them to share their platform with you. I like that. What else are you doing for that person? Yes.
I'm allowing them to realize that they're not the only one.
That's right, that they're not alone. Because a lot of the times what will happen is that we sit there feeling anxious and depressed and we think that we're alone and that we're the only ones that are going through it. But it's not the case. Yeah. So you're normalizing it. It's time that we start normalizing mental health. Everybody has a mental health. So why are we hiding it from the world? Everybody has it. And this is my favorite part. Flow. Have you ever done something and then lost track of time? Any ideas? What do you like doing that you just lose track of time? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, sorry.
Reading.
Reading. Okay. Art? Painting. Yeah, art. My son would also just like sit there and just do any kind of painting so that he just loses track of time. He spent a lot of the time during COVID doing that. The idea is that you find something that helps you flow. Whatever works for you, whatever sparks joy in your life, that passes the time, that's what you need to do. So you need to find flow in your life. So the flow that you're going to find will be something that you enjoy. Not that your mom enjoys, not that your kids enjoy, not that your husband enjoys, but what you truly enjoy. If you can't remember what that is, try and go back to a time when you do remember doing something where time just melted away. Another part which can definitely help is when we when we celebrate the small joys or the small goals, and we celebrate that. It's about having that mindset that focuses only on the things that we achieve. Focuses on the small things, like getting up and getting dressed today. Doesn't matter how depressed or anxious you're feeling, you got up and you showed up. Yes? You showed up. Each time you show up, celebrate that. Because it could have been so different for many of us today. Find what really creates meaning for you. There's this thing called ikigai. I don't know if anybody's heard about it. Lovely. I see a nod. Yes. So, it's practiced. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's practiced by people in Japan, in Okinawa, and it is to believe that the oldest people live in Okinawa. And the reason why they live this long is because they find meaning in their lives. So they find something that really brings meaning. They find purpose in their lives. So I believe that I've reached my ikigai. I know that what I do in my life is meaningful, not only to others, but to myself as well. And once you start living your life according to purposefully living, that's when you live longer, you stress less. And I want to stress less, and I want to live longer. So find something that creates meaning to you. Self-compassion. You need to be able to say, it's okay to yourself. If you have made a mistake in the past, or even if you made a mistake today, you made a wrong decision today, what are you going to tell your friend if your friend comes to you and says to you, oh gosh, I just messed up? What are you going to say?
Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. Now, why is it so difficult to be kind to yourself? Say to yourself that this too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. That you love yourself and you're kind enough to be mindful about the fact that you've made a mistake. And now ask yourself the question, okay, what can I do so that I do not make the same mistake again? Instead of being very negative towards yourself and having negative thoughts. I love this question. What is the soundtrack of your thoughts playing in your head? Is it you're a bad person? You will never amount to anything? Or is it I rock and I'm good at what I do and I'm grateful? What's the soundtrack in your head? If it's not the soundtrack that brings about joy and laughter and mindfulness and all of those good feelings, change the soundtrack. Please take the CD out. Yeah? Change the soundtrack. You're the only one that can change the soundtrack. Only you. So I practice this a lot. I practice mindfulness. I meditate. I find I find peacefulness. I find quietness because I know it fills my soul. So take time out to be with yourself, to meditate, to do yoga. Yoga has come to do wonderful things in my life. So do the yoga, do the meditations. Take that time out with yourself. Be present with yourself. Because if you master being present with yourself, you are able to be present with others. And that's vitally important when we start reintegrating back to work. Think of the things that you can control and the things that you can't control. What are some of the things that we can control? Sorry? Our thoughts, yes. Our behaviors, yes.
How we react to situations.
How we respond to situations, yes. because I don't want to react anymore. Reaction brings stress.
Okay.
So how we respond to situations. All right. Time out? Yeah, shame, man.
We're willing to take our tea into the next session. So can you give them another 5 minutes? Instead of just rushing out for tea, is that fine?
Oh, thank you. I'll go quick. I'll go really, really quick. So it's not going to be too interactive now. So the things that you can control is your appetite. How much sleep you get in. Who you spend your time with. Who you follow on social media. Because what social media does is it impacts our negative thoughts as well. Right? Our brains are wonderful. What they do is they tend to focus on the negative. So I'm going to tell you something now, and I've done this. I've watched a video, and this is what the guy did, and I just want to kind of see if it works. So I'm going out on a limb. Don't think about an elephant. What did you do? You thought about an elephant. And I particularly told you not to think about an elephant. But you went ahead and thought about an elephant. Our brains are amazing, eh? I just want you to realize that even if somebody says to you, don't think that you're stupid, what you going to do? You're going to think that you're stupid. So it really depends on ourselves to start controlling the things that we can. Control your self-love language. Who's heard that? You've heard of love language. I've introduced self-love language. Think about how you speak to yourself. Think about the things that you do for you. Not for your husband, not for your wife. Think about the things that you do. You need to become selfish. Right? Very difficult. Very difficult. Things I can't control. I can't control the weather. I can't control the traffic. I cannot control COVID, but I can control if I can contract COVID. Anyway. Right? Coping with a low mood. Remember when I spoke about keeping to a routine? No, I think I looked this way and I said, the only reason why you're not getting out of, or the only reason why we struggled with getting out of bed, etc., is because our routine was messed up. So we knew we needed to get up at 5 to get to work at 7. We knew that we had to eat at a certain time. Our bodies are just like that. We love routine. We say that children thrive on the routine. No. All of us thrive on the routine. So if you have a routine, you can combat your low mood. So if you know that I'm supposed to get up at 5, try and get up at 5. Try and get up at 5 and set those small little goals. So I'm going to get up at 5, I'm going to brush my teeth. Say that to yourself. And then I'm going to go make myself a cup of coffee, right? Because you were saying earlier, so that coffee is something that men have to go get. Go get yourself that cup of coffee. Stay connected with your friends on WhatsApp groups, on social media. Stay connected to the friends that are good for you. Eat well. Don't drink too much alcohol. You can have some, but not too much. And then go for your morning walks. Go for your evening walks. If you can't walk at home, walk at work, even if it means walking to the cafeteria, even if it means just walking to a colleague's, office, which is way on the other side. But take that walk because it gets your dopamine levels up and your serotonin levels up. Some of us are very awkward when it comes to social gatherings, and it's okay. Some of us want to be in the corner, and others want to be the life of the party. That's okay, we're all different, right? Yeah. I see who's the life of the party, yes. And with COVID, what has happened is that all of us were in isolation, and we were not partying, except for those parties that were happening. But we were not partying, and now all of a sudden when we get into a big group, it's like, oh no, my space bubble. So we are going to be awkward. but we have to be compassionate, or we have to be a little bit considerate for those people who are struggling to get back into the social settings. And remember to be yourself, because if you're not yourself, then who are you? Remember to be yourself. Remember when I was saying that we have to be considerate to people who are struggling, especially like when they're coming back to work. As managers, as employees, as colleagues, we have to know that this office setting is very different to what the office setting was before COVID. And so we need to be considerate to each other. We need to be there for each other. We need to support each other. Because you do not know what your colleague has been through for the last 2 years. I'm always saying to the kids, be kind, because you know not what someone else is going through. So always just, I think what is important is that we acknowledge that our team settings should be more of an empathetic, understanding, and compassionate environment, because we have lost a lot. And forget everything else, but just remember that a lot of us have gone through traumatic experiences, and that we have to be there for each other. Don't forget to also reach out for help when you need help. If you have an employee wellness program, reach out to that employee wellness program. Okay, I've already spoken about that. Oh, the one thing is you need to also start reserving your energies. So if you are a helper, if you are a coach, remember that you also need to be coached. You also need to be helped. So just watch your energy levels and how much you're actually giving to the world, and what are you receiving from the world. So if you're feeling distressed in your life, and if you've tried but it doesn't help, and if you feel that nobody's listening to you, and if you're using or overusing or abusing any kind of substance, or if you're feeling that your life is just not worth it anymore, and if you have the need to get back to your old self, you are able to ask for help. My favorite part at the bottom of this slide is go easy on yourself. Amongst all the other things that is there, go easy on yourself. You would go easy on everybody else. It's time for you to go easy on yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. And that's just our services. And with that, I thank you very much.